Let's do this. Let's pop this article up right here, right now. Feel free to read through the details on this. Let me explain what's going on. It comes down to something we actually have not talked about in quite a while. The Farm Bill. Wait, Farm Bill? I thought this was about food stamps. You clickbaited us. No, the Farm Bill is actually about 80+% about food stamps, which sounds really weird. Like, wait, the Farm Bill is about food stamps? Yeah, 80+% of it, the Farm Bill, is focused around food assistance, SNAP benefits, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. So yeah, it actually is all about that. Anyway, let's talk about the details of this, because here is what's going on. Last summer, they passed that big tax cut bill. Within it, they added some parameters around food stamps, which is any states that have an error rate of payment, as in error payment rate, over 6% will be penalized. There's a sliding scale, 6 to 8%, 8 to 10%, 10+%, depends on how much of a penalty the states are going to get. Penalty box, get out of here, you're in the penalty box. The states. Anyway, I'm referring to hockey. I know nothing about sports and I know nothing about hockey, but I think there's a penalty box, and I think that's what I'm referring to. Anyway, point being is that lawmakers, now that they're hashing out the final details within the Senate right now, are basically saying, no, we need to push out the time frame in which the penalties will be applied to states that have the error rates coming in over their 6% threshold. Now, reason for this is the new penalties would be going into effect next year. Next year, those penalties would be going into effect. Now, let me clarify this really quickly, because I talked about this, I don't know, over the last 3 years that these people were supposed to do this, these lawmakers. I've made this very clear, and I talked about this last year as well, is that states are broke. States have no money. And they've also shown us very clearly, not that many months ago, that they would do virtually nothing for food stamp beneficiaries in the event of something coming in with these benefits being reduced. How do we know? Think back to November of last year. What happened when there was a lapse in food stamp benefits? How many states stepped up to pay benefits to beneficiaries in the event of a federal lapse in benefits due to the government shutdown? How many states? Like 3 or 4, maybe. There was like a tiny number. I could count on one hand. It was a small amount. Maybe it was 5 states. I honestly don't even think it was 5 states. I think it was like 3 or 4 states. My point being is that the states acted like, oh, this is such a crisis, we should do something. Meanwhile, they sat there on their duff doing nothing. All the states, they did nothing. Why? States are broke. They're broke. They're more broke than you and me. They've got nothing. They've got nothing. States are totally broke, and they're terrible with managing money, just like the federal government. Bunch of schmucks is what they are. Anyway, so here's the problem with this. These states are broke, and if there's this penalty applied to the states based on their error rate, states will have no additional money to send that money out to the beneficiaries to make up the difference. Meaning, beneficiaries will be the one holding the bag, paying the price at the end of the day when these error rates are applied. Point with that is that if this actually goes through, and if these penalties to states based on their error rates are applied, states will be on the hook for paying some of the food stamp allotments that go out, okay? So remember this much. Food stamps are federally funded, state administered. In other words, the USDA, United States Department of Agriculture, oversees the food stamp program. Basically states what they do is the states run the program on the state-by-state level. They basically reach out to the federal government and say, we need $45 million this month to send out to the beneficiaries. Federal government says, sure, here's $45 million, go away, right? And they basically give the states, I mean, obviously there's more to it than this, it's not that simple, but basically they give the states the 45, whatever it is. It could be 20 million, it could be 50 million, it could be 120 million. I don't know, I'm just making up numbers here for example purposes. The federal government basically gives the state the amount of money that they need. The state goes out and doles that money out to all the beneficiaries, okay? That's how the program works. But all of a sudden, if a state is getting, say, a 10% penalty because of their error rate, now the federal government says, oh, you need $50 million? Okay, we're actually going to make it 45, a 10% reduction because of your penalty. Now you need to make up the extra difference of the $5 million. And the states say, but, we're broke. We don't have any money. And the federal government says, well, sorry, figure it out. You should figure out your error rate then. It's your problem. Figure it out. So now the state comes back. They asked for 50. Again, I'm just making up numbers here for easy example purposes. But because they have an error penalty, an error rate that subjects them to a 10% penalty in this example, now they're getting $45 million. They have millions of dollars less than what they need. And the states say, sorry, beneficiaries, we're broke. We don't have any money. So then what they do is they only send out the money that they get from the federal government. Therefore, the beneficiaries are the one at the end of the day who get the penalty. The states are like, screw it, we don't care. I mean, we're not paying for it, right? Whatever, it's the beneficiary. And then the beneficiaries are the ones that get penalized and the ones that actually get hurt by this, okay? Anyway, does all that make sense? Long story short, lawmakers in the Senate right now are saying, let's push out the time frame in which we enforce the error payment penalty on these states because let's give them more time. That's basically what they're saying. Now, this would be good because at the end of the day, for the exact reasons that it's explained to you, it's going to be the beneficiaries that pay for that penalty. It's not going to be the states. States will do whatever they can to get out of it and push the burden on someone else who will be the beneficiary, okay?